Hello and welcome to the Audacity Factor. I'm your host, Kathryn Daw, also the founder of the Audacity Factor and the Audacity Factor Project on Patreon. Please join me there. Subscribe here to this channel and hit the like button. And share as well. I would love to have you share if you're finding any of this helpful or even controversial or whatever it is for you. Let's see if we can't cast a little bit of a wider net. Anyway, so what to talk about today? It came to me kind of to let's talk about making decisions. So many people can talk about being indecisive. I can never make a decision. You make it for me. No, anything is fine, really. When a lot of times we don't actually mean that any decision is fine. I think it's really about being afraid to say what we want for fear that the other person is going to push back, that the other person won't like us anymore, that they may disconnect, they may remove connection or care or love. And I know for me, that was a big part of my last relationship. I tend to call it an abusive ship because that's really what it was. It was a very codependent, abusive, maybe not codependent, but I was definitely an enabler in that relationship, as he was super narcissistic and manipulative and passive aggressive and gaslighter, all the things. But my rote answer then became whatever you want is fine. For me, it was part of avoiding for disconnection, avoiding further trauma, avoiding further abuse, and which then leads to an enabling of their behavior. However, let's get back to the indecisiveness that people can feel. I know my daughter's one that really, really talks about she and her friend group, a previous friend group, actually, they were all indecisive. Nobody could make a decision. So it ended up somebody had to get fed up enough to then go and make the decisions so that nobody else took responsibility for anything happening. So a lot of the times, in effect, they would do nothing because nobody was willing to stand up and make a decision. Now, my daughter's made a lot of progress and really pretty much outgrown that, and by intention. The indecisiveness that you may be feeling, what is it that you're afraid of? Of making the wrong choice? There's never any one right choice. And if you make a decision and then you end up not liking it, or you can be in that wishing you had chosen differently, you can chastise yourself, judge yourself but you learn something from it. You learned that whatever it was that happened, you didn't like it. So you would then, in essence, not choose it again. It doesn't mean something about your decision-making skills, because we don't learn anything until we actually make some mistakes or choose something that we actually enjoy. So we discover you chose this thing that you really liked, or you chose this thing that maybe you were indifferent, or you chose this thing that was really terrible. My husband and I went to this play, a local play, and it looked like it would be great, and it was a rendition of a Broadway play. Now, we misunderstood a little bit and thought it was one of the traveling Broadway troupes, which it was not. It was the local theater, who have done some fantastic plays. This one was horrible. It was so bad that we literally walked out in the middle at intermission. I would have walked out in the first 10 minutes. My husband has a tendency to feel like it's more polite to stay and suffer through it. Well, you know what? That's the last time I'll do that because it was just really bad. But it doesn't mean something about going to see a play there again. It just means being a bit more mindful that it's a local play troupe. It may be good, it may be terrible, it may be somewhere in the middle. So, it gets to be our decision, continues to be our decision whether we go and see it again. Because literally they did a rendition of The Sound of Music that was fantastic, literally fantastic. So now I'm a little more wary about what we'll go and see there. But it wasn't about my ability to make a choice. It was just, some of our choices are kind of hit or miss. And if they're a miss, well, you'll know not to do it again. No different than one of my favorite groups is JJ Grey and Mofro. I think he's still, I think that's what they're still calling it. But JJ Grey, he's fantastic. My daughter and I have been following them for so long, and my husband and I went to see them in Charleston. However, well, actually, I have the shirt on. It's the Firefly Distillery. They have an outdoor venue where they'll have bands and entertainment, but you have to stand. It's out in the grass. It had rained. We're older, and it was not enjoyable because we had to stand the whole time. So again, that's something that I wouldn't choose that venue. It doesn't mean something about my ability to make a decision, but I did learn something that I don't want to go anywhere where I have to stand for a long period of time. And my husband the same. It means that when we go and see a band that we like or music that we enjoy, we want to be comfortable and be so that we can stay there and enjoy it as long as we can. One of our favorite venues is the Ryman in Nashville. Even the Ryman, where the acoustics are fantastic. So if you ever get an opportunity to go to the Ryman, go. You might need a cushion because they're old wooden church pews, so they can get a little uncomfortable. However, the venue itself is fantastic. So, we all get to learn what we like and what we don't like. Everything is an experimentation. You learn what works and you learn what doesn't work. So indecisiveness puts you in that constant holding pattern where you're not making any decisions. And oftentimes then choices get made for you. So you can either have life come at you, or you can intentionally become active in your life. And you take the driver's seat, take the bull by the horns, whatever the kind of the metaphor is for you, to be able to discover, to grow, to learn what you like and what you don't like, what works for you and what doesn't work for you, knowing that those things are dynamic. It may be that something that worked for you 5 years ago no longer works for you. And then that's okay. It's okay to discard that thing that no longer works for you. That's growth. If a tree, for example, I know this can be simplistic, but it's true. The tree sheds its leaves every fall. It's up to us to shed the things that don't work for us. Whether it's clothes that we've been holding on to that we know for a fact, and women, I think, are probably way worse at this than men, that we know we won't wear again, but to pass them on so somebody else can use them. Accept the fact that we either don't like them, they don't fit us, or they don't fit how we like. They're just no longer represent who we are. And know that that's a part of growth always. And as my daughter and I used to say, if we don't change, we don't grow. She once compared it to it was Halloween time, and she compared it to pumpkin seeds, noticing that the pumpkin seeds were of varying sizes. And she compared the variation of seeds to someone that she knew that was closer. She was probably 8 or 9 at the time. And she says, so-and-so is a small seed. And because they don't change, they don't grow. So they'll always be a small seed. She says, you and I know that we have to become a big seed, and then we have to become the pumpkin if we want to grow. So growth is inherent in change. And change can happen to you, or you can initiate the change and the growth. It's your choice completely. You can constantly be putting out fires. I know I lived my life like that for a long time as a single mother. And and literally there was an actual fire. But anyway, so instead of taking the driver's seat, I was constantly kind of in the passenger seat saying, what's coming next, and always expecting something to come next. So in making that decision to take the responsibility fully for my life is when true change and growth came and continues as well. And the ability to recognize when something's no longer working for me and what needs to change. So there's a level of decisiveness that comes, an intentional desire to make decisions and choices. And that takes courage, and that takes taking full responsibility for our lives as well. And not letting somebody else make our decisions for us. We don't get to complain. If we're going to let somebody else make the decisions, then we don't get to complain about what decision they made. So speak up for yourself. Make the decision. You don't need a big giant spreadsheet analysis to put yourself in what they call analysis paralysis, because that's the same thing. You're overloading yourself with nonsensical information. Instead of actually taking an action step, taking the action, because the action, you know what I say, without the action, it's not real. It's only latent possibility. So you've got to take the action to bring it into reality. And then what are you learning? It was a great choice and you're glad you did it and you learned something from it. One thing my daughter learned a couple of weeks ago, she said, I didn't realize all I had to do was ask for this one particular thing that she wanted to have happen. She just said, I didn't know it was just as easy as asking. So she made this bold decision to ask for what she wanted. Because without asking, we don't get what we might by chance, but the likelihood is definitely much lower. I had a friend who, that was her thing. If you don't ask, you don't get. That was pretty much that's pretty much her mantra through her life. If you don't ask, you don't get. So ask, make the decision, learn to be decisive, practice. Even if it's in those small ways. Decide what you want to eat. Decide what restaurant you want to go to. Decide that this no longer works for you. Decide that these clothes need to go. Make those decisions that you can in your everyday to practice when some more involved decisions come. And that starts with taking responsibility for making choices, because it's up to you. Your life is up to you, not anyone else. We can't point the finger, only if it's at ourselves, because your life is yours fully. All right. This was episode 16. It is August 16th, Friday. I will see you all tomorrow on Saturday, the 17th of August, 2024 in my 90 for 90. And please join me on Patreon. Click the link. I'm going to see if I can't put a link up here in the video.